Ancient coins really are small little antiquities. They're little works of art. And so, being that I'm also an expert in antiquities beyond ancient coins, I thought it would be interesting to kind of give my knowledge on a little bit of touching on as far as Antiquities for Dummies or Antiquities 101, and show where you get some of the same symbols and symbolism on ancient coins. And you can actually get in the market sometimes real antiquities that relate to those same coins, whether it be sculptures of Roman emperors or symbolism on vases or the vases themselves and the gods and goddesses. So no coins here because coins didn't begin until 650 BC. So before coins, you had a barter system. And so you see there's a little cuneiform tablet there. That's all cuneiform. The tablets themselves were actually administrative documents from around 2000 BC. And so everything was barter and everything was recorded on these tablets with cuneiform writing.
It's basically a ledger.
It's a ledger, right. And so they're not rare. They're very common, actually, because you think about every business transaction that was ever done for probably a couple thousand years, they recorded them on these tablets. And so the one that looks like a cone, it's basically a nail, sort of like a nail. And they would actually, it's dedicated to the king, and they would actually push those into the foundation of the building to bless it. They would literally put thousands of these into the foundation of the building. So again, not rare, but really cool piece of history. So the bowl, see the bowl to the upper right there? Yes. That's called a devil's bowl. And so it's written in a type of early Cyrillic. And so they buried them upside down about a certain distance under the ground. And then the idea is a devil would come up and it would start reading this and get caught in the center like a dream catcher. Same idea. And they would actually sometimes they would say, like to protect against the family, because you can get these translated. There's people who read this stuff. And so
are you sure they're not making stuff up?
They're not making stuff up. Okay. They're not making stuff up. And they actually, on the other side, sometimes they have symbols of how far to bury it down or how to turn it, like almost like an instructional guide, how to place it into the ground, which is really interesting. And then you have cylinder seals, which were used sometimes on the tablets themselves with writing on them and different other beads that were used to press out items in clay and things like that. So this is before commerce began. If we go to the next slide, get into the Egyptian culture. And even though there was only one pharaoh that actually minted coins, we showed one on the show a bunch of episodes ago. There was no coins in Egypt at the time, but during the Greek and Roman period, they started to copy a lot of the motifs that you would find in Egyptian culture, and you'd find them on the coins. So if you look, you see there's an Egyptian scarab in green. It actually represents the dung beetle. So the dung beetle, the Egyptians saw that indigenous beetle actually put its larva into a dung ball and then push it across the sand. They saw that as Caporet pushing the sun across the horizon. I don't know how you get a beetle in dung into the sun, but then the dung beetle would bury its larva underground. The mother would die, the larva would hatch, and it would come out of the sand, and they saw that as life, death, and rebirth. And so that became the whole symbolism for the Egyptian culture. And if you look, you can see there's a coin. It's called a Wapenmutsen, which is an early Athens piece from the 6th century BC in an obol, and there's a scarab that's actually on the coin itself.
And is that an Eye of Ra next to it?
Eye of Ra. Where do you see Eye of Ra?
Bottom left.
Oh, so that's an Eye of Horus. So Eyes of Horus, or the all-seeing eye, if you want to say. So Horus was kind of like, you have Osiris, who is the king god. You have Horus's son, and his mother was Isis. And Horus fought Seth, who is a demon, lost his eye, and then Isis and her sister revived the eye, and then his eye became a healing device. So people would usually wear these to help cure them in some form, almost like taking a Tylenol. If you go to the next slide, so here you get all kinds of statuary, horses. There's a theater mask, and if you look on a coin of Tarentum right there, see the little theater mask under the horse? Same idea. So, and then you have a palmette in terracotta, and so obviously all of these types of things can end up on coins because they were made during the same time periods. So it's the same artists probably that were designing, could have been the same die cutters that were also creating art as well. They were all artists. So it is completely possible. And again, people who collect theater masks and things like that, I have all kinds of people who are antiquity buyers, but not coin buyers, but they would buy that coin because it has a theater mask on it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Some people would say it's Salinas. I'd say it's the theater mask based on the antiquity. The highest quality pottery is Athenian pottery from Athens from the 5th century BC. And so you get kylixes, kylex, which are drinking cups that they would drink wine out of. You get what's called a lekathos, which is the item that has Hercules fighting the lion there on it. But if you look at the kylex above the coin, it's called an eye cup. And so you're literally, those are two eyes on either side of probably a Hercules there in the center. And if you look on this coin of Demetrius Poliorcetes, it has a prow of a ship, right, with a victory on it. If you look dead center, you can see the eye right in the center of the prow. Yeah. So there's the eye. And so the eye is supposed to, they put them on the prow of the ships because it was supposed to be the all-seeing eye, supposed to bring you good luck. And so you see little iconography like that on coins sometimes. You just have to look for it. And I love this kylex because he's actually playing a game that the youths would play it's a drinking game, actually. And I saw this on a fresco once too. And what he's doing is the last, these kylexes are wine cups. So the last drip of wine, they would leave it in there, and then there would be a stack of people behind him, and he would spin it on his finger and have the last drip of wine going around the edge and try to flip it behind, and then the people in the back had to try to catch that drop of wine.
Oh, how generous.
How generous. And how agile they must have been.